it. I suppose the place to start is in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, believe it or not. Final score, Wisconsin 81, Pitt 75. I hope you just watched it on CBS Sports Network. John Tonji got 33 points to lead the Badgers to the Greenbrier tip-off title. Wisconsin overcame a 14-point deficit, and now the Badgers are 7-0 after being picked tied for 12th in the unofficial Big Ten preseason poll. They're playing faster. Tonje looks like a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate. Again, Wisconsin 7-0 for the first time since Bo Ryan got them there in November of 2014. Fink, let's start with Wisconsin. What do you make of what Greg Gard is doing with these Badgers in what was clearly an important year for him as it pertains to his career?
I don't think there is a transfer in the country who has been, I'm going to put it this way because let's just be real, dollar for dollar more impactful than John Tonji. I mean, what he's done in terms of the scoring, the second half he had today, what he did against Arizona, he scores at multiple levels. He gets to the free throw line like maybe nobody else in college basketball. He's 23 years old. This is his 6th year of college basketball, did 4 years at Colorado State. Really, last year, grad transfer at Mizzou was almost a wash because of the foot injury. Only played in 8 games, so he got that year back. And he has been better than A.J. Storr. I mean, we were worried about Wisconsin when they lost Storr and Hepburn to the portal, and they come up with John Tonji. Everybody's like, who's this? He was going to go to New Mexico, ends up here, and now he's better than A.J. Storr. And like I said, dollar for dollar, the best transfer in the country right now, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean, certainly performing that way. You know, as you mentioned, Wisconsin loses A.J. Storr to Kansas. They lose Chucky Hepburn to Louisville, Tyler Wall to eligibility. So they lose 3 of their top 5 scorers, and that is among the reasons they were picked tied for 12th in the unofficial preseason Big Ten poll. Tonji, I say it like this because it's factual and it sounds bigger, but you're exactly right. The context does matter. He only appeared in 8 games last season, but it is a fact. He averaged 2.6 points per game last season at Missouri. He got 41 already this season in the upset of Arizona, which may or may not be an upset. It's an upset forever, but it may not look that way by the time we get to March. He got 33 tonight against Pitt. He's now averaging 23 points per game. I sort of threw it out there on a podcast last week or the week before. Has anybody ever averaged 2.6 points per game one season and then scored 41 in a game the next? I'm not sure, but Tonji did it this season, and it really is a neat story, particularly because this isn't, you know, your father's Wisconsin basketball team. They're playing faster. They're getting up and down the court. They're scoring more. Just what do you make of Greg Gard clearly making a decision? Just to put some numbers on that, by the way, each of the past 2 seasons, Wisconsin ranked in the 300s in tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Heading into this game, according to BartTorvik.com, they were 124th in the nation. So they've like jumped 150, 60, 70 spots in tempo. What do you make of what Greg Gard's doing in you know, as it pertains to style of play?
There's a lot of basketball terms that have become almost cliche that they're used so often, and pace and space is one such example. But those are the things we're seeing more of in Wisconsin right now. They are playing faster. They're shooting more threes. And in so doing, they are opening up the court. And that's creating driving lanes for people like Tonji. When you have multiple shooters on the floor and they have the green light, and you saw it down the stretch of Pittsburgh today, they were spacing the floor. They were moving the ball. They were knocking down open looks. And then when the defense is spaced that far apart, you've got driving lanes. And when you've got a 23-year-old physical 6'5" wing who can plow his way in there, he's going to get easy baskets by getting himself to the free throw line. I think the thing that we've got to account for here is that every great scorer is more than a tough shot maker. They can make tough shots, and Tonji can certainly do that, but every great scorer also gets easy buckets. And that's where Tonji's ability to get to the free throw line is so important. And he wouldn't have that ability unless he had this type of space. He went from a guy who was a court spacer to now at Wisconsin, someone who is benefiting by an unprecedented amount of pace and space, as much of a cliche as that may sound.
And so, you know, this is, you know, we're now 3 full weeks into the season. I don't know that preseason polls matter that much anymore. I think most people pick Purdue to win the Big Ten, perhaps by default, just because there wasn't another obvious great team on paper there. But Indiana, kind of looks the part so far this season. Wisconsin, I think, has got to become a part of that conversation. How do you handicap the top of the Big Ten now that Wisconsin has emerged as a serious threat?
Wisconsin is one of those teams that, as good as the Big Ten was, it was somewhat, correct me if I'm wrong here, GP, somewhat wide open at the top.
Yeah.
I know like when on our 24/7 side, when Isaac Trotter and I went through this, he said to me, he said, I don't think they have a national championship contender in the mix. When you and Norlander were out at Media Day, I know that was a talking point for you guys of how long it has been since they got a national championship program. So as deep as the league was, I think it was a league that was somewhat wide open at the top. Now, I'm not telling you that Wisconsin's going to win the league, but I'm not telling you they're not either. I think the thing that we've learned 3 weeks into the season is, hey, these guys are for real. And let's be real about the context of this. Like, they came into this season, Greg Gard said, hey, I got to win this year. And when your players respond to that type of pressure, it tells you two things. One, they're a connected team. And two, they are connected to their coach. They are playing for their coach, and they are playing for the benefit of the program and for him. And so I think that the connectivity of this group, and you saw it in the locker room after that Arizona game, where he said, if you don't believe in our upside now, forget about what everybody else is saying, but if you don't believe in our upside now, what's it going to take? And I think they all believe now. And we saw that again tonight in West Virginia.
To your point about it being wide open at the top, even though there's a lot of really good teams in here, just one way to illustrate that, at KenPom right now, Purdue is the highest rated Big Ten team, but they're 15th in the country. All right. So the Big Ten has nobody in the top 14 at KenPom, but you ready for this? They have 13 different schools in the top 50. So they could put 10 schools in the NCAA tournament, but none of them and I think the Big Ten champ will be a top 2 seed. So I take that back, but you get the point. They could put double-digit teams in the NCAA tournament, and we look at the bracket and go, yeah, I don't think any of them can win the whole thing, though. That might be where we're at.
Yeah, and like the depth of that league, I'm getting ahead of myself, and I think you guys have even talked about this, but at what point do we get to a point where the physicality of this league combined with the depth, it becomes, these guys just kind of beat on each other so much that let's see who's really are they going to get better because of the grind by the time we get to March and April, or are they going to get wear down by the grind? I mean, that's a question that I think we're going to have to wait and see.